It was in Edmonton in September of 2006. Over the Labor Day weekend, the Book Television and Chapters Indigo put 12 hand-picked writers together to face the world's most notorious literary marathon, the 3-day novel contest. Each of the writers were charged with the task of writing an entire novel in just 72 hours, but for the first time ever, they were chosen to do it live on national television, while sleeping, living, eating, competing, and writing in the middle of Edmonton's biggest bookstore. I'm Kim Clark-Champness, your host for this 3-day odyssey. There, every moment, as the writers contend with all the crowds, customers, and interruptions that a long weekend brings.
And Dad told me to remember about 2 pages.
And all of a sudden, we were all sitting here, and suddenly all the machines went dead at the same time.
In addition to the onlookers, the writers had to face regular challenges, which would test their writing skills, vocabulary, and even their ability to perform their work. The writers competed for prizes and, more importantly, competed to avoid time-wasting penalties.
It's going to be a long hour.
As they battled one of their toughest obstacles, the clock.
I'm way behind. I'm at about 3,200 words right now, and it's midnight, Saturday midnight.
Well, everybody else has got about 7,000 words. I've got about 500.
Way behind on the first day, way behind on the second day.
I'm losing serious ground. I don't know what it's going to take for me to get fresh perspective.
And as with any marathon, the riders tried to fight through fatigue, sleep deprivation, and breakdowns.
It's, what was the question?
How's the novel coming?
I'm not going to let them down. And I'm not going to let myself down.
I think this minimal sleeping thing, it's just brutal.
I'm hoping to get tired enough that the snoring won't bother me anymore.
Big day, work ahead tomorrow. Not a lot of choices left.
And as we tried to pry open the writing process, they struggled with tight sleeping quarters, relentless cameras, each other, and that horrifying opponent, the blank page.
The 3-day novel contest has been running every year since 1977. It was a barroom challenge, there's no question about it. It wasn't really a bet because we didn't make a wager. The conversation came up about the possibility of writing a book or a novel in a weekend or in 3 days. And who came to mind was Voltaire, who claimed to have written Candide in 3 days. And we'd all read Jack Kerouac, and we knew that at least one of his books was a 3-day novel. I think there were a few other examples that came to mind, but that was enough.
Well, we called it the most notorious literary marathon, just because it is that, it's a cut the crap kind of contest, you know, shut up, put out, you know, stop the talking, you keep talking about your novel, your great novel, well, here's a chance to show your stuff.
The stereotypical novel is something that you sweat over for 10 years. It's this long, drawn-out process that can involve your whole life. So it's sort of you know, the meatball surgery of novel writing, and that's what we think makes it so fun.
I've entered the 3-day novel writing contest 6 times. It's a little insane, but it's well, it's like a punk rock gig, I guess. It's fast. It's I guess it's a little bit sweaty in a sense, really intense, and you get all this energy out, but it's over real quick.
I have entered before. It was, of course, arduous to stay awake that long and try and bolt your food and go back to writing, but I thought it was quite wonderful.
I did enter the 3-day novel competition 25 years ago. All I can remember about it was being sort of locked in my office, my little tiny office at the Calgary Herald, for 3 days, drinking more coffee than I can remember. And this is 25 years ago, so I had to write it on paper on a typewriter.
I've entered before, and the results were interesting, but not anything that I'd want to preserve for posterity's sake. It was a very harrowing experience. By the time day 3 rolls around and you're very tired and your story doesn't make any sense, it's very easy to become critical of yourself and your abilities as a wordsmith.
It was horrible. Well, no, that's not fair. It wasn't horrible, but I think I smoked an entire carton of cigarettes in 3 days. I sort of emerged at the end of it in a blue haze. I don't even remember if I slept.
I have entered the 3-day novel contest 3 times. The first time, the experience was interrupted by the arrival of a girlfriend, and we were trying to decide whether or not to get married, and we didn't. The second time, I didn't complete the novel, but it was a great experience. The third time, I did complete the novel because I planned better, and I had a wonderful time.
There was nothing else to think about. It was just time for me and my words to push them all out as quickly as I could. You just have to type it.
I like best that it's such a lowbrow undertaking. There's a guerrilla aspect to it, no doubt about it. Every year there were crazy people trying to do it in storefronts and failing because you can't write a novel when people are walking by staring at and pushing their noses up against the window.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's not for every writer. I'd say it's for someone I think who's got a good idea, it's been brewing in their head, and they got to have the talent to be able to put it down.
I've always been intrigued by the 3-day novel writing. I have friends who have done it. I have friends who have sat in the window of bookstores for 3 days and just plonked away.
I've made pacts with other people that we were going to, get a hotel room for the weekend and each write a novel. It's something I've always wanted to do.
I think I'm on the same playing field as everybody else. I think I can write a novel. I really think that this would be a fantastic way to see how you can write and under pressure and under a time restraint.
I love that sort of involved writing it has taken over your whole life for a period of time. That kind of possession, do you know what I mean?
A challenge works for a lot of people. A lot of people need a deadline. When someone's actually saying, you got a chance to get this published, crank it out in 3 days, and if it's the right kind of idea, it can be done.
Success in this contest is producing your 80 to 120 pages. Failure in the contest is not producing the novel and not even trying.
They get an experience of writing, an in-depth experience of what being a writer is that they can't get any other way.
I haven't written a complete novel, but I've written fragments of novels and lots of longer short stories. I just kind of want to see if I could do it too.
I think I can write a novel in 3 days. In my writing career as a professional, I write fast. I write right on deadline. And I know that I can write 700 words in 1 hour without breaking a sweat.
This year I turned 40, and that kind of propelled me to think about, well, how could I mark this 40th year? Because I've been thinking about it for a while, and I thought, this is kind of a writer's marathon, and so here's a chance for me to kind of run a marathon for a writer. I know that I can write a novel in 3 days because I know that I'm not going to give up.
It's the hardest thing you can try to do. This we learned year after year. Hundreds of people utterly exhausted, utterly emptied out by it.
I think you have a lot of burnout and people that end up quitting.
The contest is pretty tough physically, but there's a real energy to it, and you find yourself not really sleeping and not really eating and not really wanting to. You're caught up in the momentum of the novel.
It's like a religious experience. It's a baptism of fire.
Up next, the writers arrive and start to see what they're in for.
I think I can take the pressure.
The 3-day novel contest rules dictate that the novelist must start Saturday morning at 12:01 a.m. But the event began early Friday morning for many of the contestants, some of whom had come from out of town. 6 of the writers arrived early to get a glimpse of the competition, living quarters and challenges, and were interviewed by Edmonton's breakfast television host, Bridget Ryan.
Hey, Stacy. Hello, everybody. We are here at Chapters, just off Calgary Trail on the south side of the city, and we're talking about a fantastic event which Book Television is going to be televising. It is a 3-day novel writing contest, kicks off tonight at midnight, and this has been a huge search to qualify to be one of the 12 novelists.
To reach this point, our finalists had first been chosen as semi-finalists from over 150 lengthy applications.